In the vastness of space, where stars twinkled like diamonds scattered across an endless black canvas, humanity had built a new life among the stars. Earth, once the cradle of civilization, was now little more than a forgotten memory, a dusty rock orbiting a modest star. It was a place people spoke of in history lessons, not as home, but as a relic of the past. Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge of the ISS Vanguard *, his eyes scanning the monitors before him. His mission was simple: explore an uncharted region near Earth's orbit and report anything unusual. The ship hummed softly around him, its engines steady and reliable. Beside him, Lieutenant Karen Wells monitored the sensors, her fingers moving swiftly over the controls. "Anything yet?" Daniel asked, breaking the silence that had settled over the crew. Karen shook her head. "Nothing out of the ordinary, sir. Just debris fields and some old satellites." Daniel sighed. Missions like this were routine, almost boring. But something about this area intrigued him. Maybe it was the stories he'd heard as a child, tales of Earth's golden age when humans first reached for the stars. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this part of space than met the eye. Suddenly, the sensors flared to life. A faint signal, weak but unmistakable, appeared on the screen. Karen frowned. "Sir, we've got something. It's coming from one of the larger chunks of debris." Daniel leaned forward. "Can you pinpoint it?" After a moment, Karen nodded. "Yes, sir. It looks like an old space station, probably abandoned centuries ago." Curiosity sparked in Daniel's chest. "Set a course. Let's take a closer look." The Vanguard approached cautiously, its lights illuminating the battered hull of the ancient structure. The station was massive, far larger than anything they'd expected to find. Its surface was scarred with micrometeorite impacts, and parts of it seemed to be crumbling away. Still, it was clear that this station had been built with purpose. As the crew boarded the derelict station, they found themselves surrounded by dust and shadows. The air inside was stale, untouched for hundreds of years. Panels lined the walls, many of them dark and lifeless. But then, one screen flickered to life. Static filled the air before giving way to a grainy video. A man in a uniform appeared on the screen, his face serious. "If you're watching this, then our worst fears have come true," he said. "The Dreadnought fleet remains hidden. Use it wisely." Daniel exchanged a glance with Karen. "Dreadnought fleet? What is he talking about?" They spent hours searching the station, piecing together fragments of information. Records spoke of a secret project, a fleet of warships designed to protect Earth from alien threats. These ships, called Dreadnoughts, were never used because no such threat ever came. Instead, they were hidden away, waiting for a day that might never arrive. But now, that day seemed closer than anyone could have imagined. As Daniel uploaded the data to the Vanguard *, he couldn't help but feel uneasy. Something told him their discovery wouldn't stay secret for long. And deep down, he knew that whatever happened next would change everything. For Earth, for humanity, and perhaps for the entire galaxy. Back aboard the Vanguard *, Daniel stared at the coordinates of the hidden fleet. Somewhere out there, buried in the void of space, lay the key to Earth's forgotten power. All they had to do was find it. But as the ship turned toward the location, a distant blip appeared on their radar. Someone, or something, was already heading their way. The race had begun. On Earth, far below the silent dance of stars and spaceships, Laura Bennett worked tirelessly in a dimly lit lab. Dusty shelves lined the walls, filled with artifacts from humanity's earliest days, pieces of pottery, fragments of ancient tools, and faded photographs. She was an archaeologist, someone who dug through history to uncover forgotten truths. But today, her focus wasn't on relics from thousands of years ago. It was on a message she had just received. The call came unexpectedly. Her brother, Daniel Carter, appeared on her screen looking tired but urgent. "Laura," he said without preamble, "I need your help." Laura raised an eyebrow. They weren't close. Not anymore. Years of disagreements and missed opportunities had driven them apart. "What is it this time?" she asked cautiously. Daniel hesitated before speaking. "We found something. Big. Something hidden near Earth. I think it's tied to those old warships you've studied. The Dreadnoughts." Laura froze. The Dreadnoughts were legendary, mythical even. Stories about them were whispered among historians, but no one had ever proven they existed. If Daniel was telling the truth, this could change everything. Still, she couldn't ignore the warning bells ringing in her mind. "Why me?" "Because you're the only one who can decode the archives we found," Daniel replied. "Without you, we're stuck." Reluctantly, Laura agreed to meet him. When she arrived at the space station, she couldn't believe what she saw. Monitors displayed schematics of massive ships, their designs both alien and familiar. Weapons systems, engines, and AI cores, all far ahead of anything used today. This wasn't just history. It was a glimpse into humanity's lost potential. As Laura dove into the data, she noticed something strange. The records mentioned not just one dreadnought, but an entire fleet scattered across locations near Earth's moon. Someone had gone to great lengths to hide them. And now, thanks to Daniel's discovery, they were vulnerable. Meanwhile, light years away, Admiral Ryan Mitchell sat in his command chair aboard the Asterisk, Imperial Starblade Asterisk. News of Earth's discovery had reached him, and his expression darkened. "Earth has no right to such power," he muttered under his breath. Turning to Commander Victor Hale, he barked orders. "You will investigate. Find out what they've uncovered, and destroy it if necessary." Victor nodded stiffly, though unease gnawed at him. He had always followed orders, but this felt different. Attacking Earth, destroying its people for something they hadn't even created, it didn't sit right with him. Still, he knew better than to question the Empire. For now, he would obey. Back on the station, Laura worked late into the night, piecing together clues. She realized the dreadnoughts weren't just weapons. They were symbols of hope. Built during a time when humanity feared invasion, they represented unity and resilience. Yet here they were again, centuries later, needed once more. Her thoughts were interrupted by Daniel entering the room. "How's it going?" he asked. "I think I've got enough to reactivate one of the ships," Laura said, her voice tinged with excitement. "But Daniel, activating these things, it'll send a signal. Everyone will know." Daniel sighed. "We don't have a choice. If the Empire finds out first, we're done for." Laura stared at her brother, seeing determination in his eyes that reminded her of their childhood. Maybe he hadn't changed as much as she thought. "All right," she said finally. "Let's do it." But as they prepared to leave the station, a new blip appeared on their radar. A fleet of Imperial ships was moving toward them. Fast. Time was running out, and Earth's fate hung in the balance. The crew of the Asterisk, ISS Vanguard Asterisk, worked feverishly as they approached the coordinates Laura had deciphered. Hidden beneath layers of moon dust and debris, the first dreadnought lay dormant, waiting for someone to awaken it. The ship was massive, its dark hull glinting faintly in the dim light of Earth's moon. It looked like a sleeping giant ready to rise. Daniel Carter stood at the helm of a small shuttlecraft, guiding it toward the ancient vessel. Beside him, Laura Bennett held her breath, clutching a tablet filled with activation codes. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "No," Daniel admitted, "but we don't have time to second-guess ourselves." As they landed on the dreadnought's surface, the airlock hissed open, revealing a dark corridor. Dust floated lazily in the zero gravity, and the walls were etched with symbols that seemed almost alive under their flashlights. Laura ran her fingers over one of the markings. "This is incredible," she whispered. "It's like the ship was designed to think for itself." They made their way to the control room, where a central console pulsed faintly with residual energy. Laura plugged her tablet into the system, and lines of code began scrolling across the screen. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a low hum, Lights flickered on throughout the ship. Panels lit up, and the air crackled with electricity. "Is it working?" Daniel asked, his hand resting on the grip of his sidearm. Laura nodded, her eyes glued to the screen. "The AI core is booting up. Give it a minute." A deep, resonant voice echoed through the chamber. "Reactivation sequence initiated. Identity verification required." Daniel and Laura exchanged a glance. "What does it want?" he asked. "It needs confirmation that we're authorized users," Laura explained. She typed furiously, inputting the code she had extracted from the space station's archives. After a tense pause, the voice spoke again. "Authorization confirmed. Welcome aboard, Captain." The Dreadnought came fully online, its systems humming with power. On the main display, a holographic map of the solar system appeared, highlighting the locations of other ships in the fleet. Laura stared at the map, awestruck. "There are more of them," she said. "At least a dozen, scattered around the moon." Daniel clenched his fists. "If we can reactivate even half of them, we might stand a chance." But their triumph was short-lived. A sudden alert flashed on the screen. "External signal detected," the AI announced. "Broadcasting automated response." "What does that mean?" Daniel demanded. Laura's face paled. "It means the Empire knows we're here. Reactivating the ship sent out a signal. They'll be coming for us." Back aboard the Vanguard Lieutenant Karen Wells monitored the radar. Her voice was grim as she reported to Daniel. "Sir, Imperial ships are inbound. They'll be here within hours." Daniel cursed under his breath. "We need volunteers. People willing to man the other dreadnoughts. We can't do this alone." Laura stepped forward. "I'll help. I know how to bring the others online." Daniel hesitated, but nodded. "All right, but we move fast." They returned to the Vanguard and broadcast a message to nearby colonies and outposts. To their surprise, responses poured in. Men and women who had once called Earth home, or dreamed of doing so, rallied to their cause. Among them was Alan Green, a grizzled engineer with decades of experience repairing old ships. "If you're crazy enough to take on the Empire," he said with a grin, "count me in." With their makeshift crew assembled, they split into teams, each tasked with reviving a dreadnought. The work was dangerous and exhausting, but progress was steady. One by one, the ancient ships roared to life, their engines lighting up the darkness of space. As the last ship came online, Daniel gathered everyone aboard the Colossus *, the flagship of the fleet. Standing before the crew, he spoke with quiet determination. "This isn't just about Earth. It's about proving that humanity still has the strength to fight for what's right. The Empire thinks we're weak, that we're nothing. Let's show them they're wrong." The crew erupted into cheers, their spirits lifted by the promise of hope. But as they prepared for battle, a shadow loomed on the horizon. The Imperial fleet was closing in, its ships bristling with weapons. The stage was set for a confrontation that would decide the fate of Earth, and perhaps the galaxy itself. The tension aboard the Colossus was thick enough to cut with a knife. The crew moved quickly, checking systems and preparing for the inevitable clash ahead. Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the view screen. The Imperial fleet loomed larger with each passing minute, a wall of steel and firepower that seemed unstoppable. Laura Bennett worked alongside Alan Green in the engineering bay, ensuring every system on the Dreadnought was functioning perfectly. "We're not just fighting for Earth," she said as she adjusted a panel. "We're fighting for everyone who's ever been crushed under the Empire's boot." Alan nodded, tightening a bolt with practiced ease. "Let's just hope these old ships can still hold their own." On the other side of the battlefield, Commander Victor Hale sat in silence aboard his flagship, the Imperial Dagger *. His mind raced with doubts he couldn't shake. Attacking Earth felt wrong, unjust. These people weren't soldiers. They were civilians trying to protect what little they had left. Yet Admiral Ryan Mitchell's orders were clear: destroy the Dreadnought fleet and leave no trace of resistance. Victor glanced at Lieutenant Samantha Brooks, his second in command. She caught his gaze and frowned. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said sharply. "What's bothering you?" "Nothing," Victor replied, though his voice lacked conviction. He turned back to the view screen, watching as the massive dreadnoughts drifted into formation around Earth's moon. Something about their presence stirred an emotion he hadn't felt in years: hope. Back on the Colossus *, Daniel called for a final briefing. The crew gathered in the main chamber, their faces tense but resolute. "The Empire thinks we're weak," Daniel began. "They think we'll roll over and let them take what they want. But we're not going to do that. We're standing our ground. For Earth, for humanity, and for freedom." A cheer rose from the group, echoing through the ship. Laura stepped forward, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "These dreadnoughts are more than weapons. They're symbols of who we used to be: strong, united, unbreakable. Let's remind them of that." As the meeting ended, Daniel pulled Laura aside. "Are you sure about this?" he asked quietly. "Once we engage, there's no turning back." Laura met his gaze. "I'm sure. If we don't fight now, the Empire will only grow stronger. This is our chance to make a difference." Meanwhile, on board the Imperial Dagger *, Victor made a decision that would change everything. As the fleet prepared to fire, he ordered his ship to hold position. Samantha stared at him, incredulous. "Sir, we need to follow protocol." "No," Victor said firmly. "I won't attack unarmed civilians. Not today." Samantha hesitated, torn between duty and conscience. Finally, she lowered her head. "Then what do we do?" "We wait," Victor replied, "and see how this plays out." The standoff grew tenser as the two fleets faced each other across the void. Then, without warning, the dreadnoughts opened fire, not directly at the Imperial ships, but at nearby asteroids, creating a cloud of debris that blocked their path. The message was clear: stay back, or face destruction. Admiral Mitchell watched the scene unfold from his command ship, fury building within him. "They dare defy us," he roared. "Launch all fighters. Take them down." But even as the order was given, cracks began to form within the Imperial ranks. Inspired by Victor's defiance, some captains questioned their mission. Others outright refused to engage. The unity of the Empire wavered, its grip on its forces slipping. On the Colossus *, Daniel allowed himself a small smile. For the first time, it felt like victory might be possible, but he knew better than to celebrate too soon. The real battle had only just begun. The battle erupted with a deafening roar as Imperial fighters surged forward, their engines blazing like streaks of fire against the blackness of space. The dreadnoughts responded instantly, their massive cannons unleashing beams of energy that tore through the void. The first wave of enemy ships disintegrated in an instant, their wreckage scattering across the battlefield. On board the Colossus *, Captain Daniel Carter gripped the edge of his command chair, watching the chaos unfold on the view screen. "Target their lead ships," he shouted. "Keep them from regrouping." Karen Wells, seated at the weapons console, nodded sharply and fired another salvo. The dreadnought's weapons were far more powerful than anything the Empire had brought to the fight. Each shot sent shockwaves rippling through space, obliterating entire squadrons of Imperial fighters. But despite their advantage, Daniel knew they couldn't afford to get complacent. The enemy still outnumbered them. Laura Bennett stood nearby, her eyes glued to the tactical display. "They're trying to flank us," she warned. "If they get behind the fleet, we'll be in trouble." Daniel turned to Alan Green, who was monitoring the ship's systems. "Can we hold?" Alan wiped sweat from his brow. "For now, yeah. But these old engines weren't built for prolonged combat. We push too hard, and they might fail." "Then we don't let it come to that," Daniel replied firmly. Turning back to Karen, he ordered, "Focus fire on their flagship. If we can take out Admiral Mitchell, the rest will fall apart. As the Colossus unleashed its full firepower, the Imperial flagship rocked under the assault. On board, Admiral Mitchell clenched his fists, his face red with fury. Retreat? Never, he bellowed. Send everything we've got. Crush them. But not everyone obeyed. Commander Victor Hale remained frozen in place, his ship holding its position. He watched as the dreadnoughts decimated the Imperial forces, his heart heavy with conflict. Samantha Brooks approached him cautiously. "Sir, if we don't act soon, there won't be a fleet left to command." Victor shook his head. "I won't be part of this slaughter," he said quietly. Then, raising his voice, he addressed the crew over the intercom. "Men and women of the Imperial Dagger hear me. What we're doing here is wrong. Earth isn't our enemy. It's our home. If you believe in justice, then stand down." For a moment, silence filled the ship. Then, slowly, murmurs of agreement spread among the crew. One by one, they lowered their weapons, refusing to follow Mitchell's orders. Other ships in the Imperial fleet began to waver as well, inspired by Victor's act of defiance. Back on the Colossus Laura noticed the change. "Daniel, look," she exclaimed, pointing to the view screen. Several Imperial ships had stopped firing altogether, their crews clearly unsure of what to do next. Daniel allowed himself a brief smile. It's working. They're losing faith in their leaders. But the battle wasn't over yet. Admiral Mitchell, enraged by the mutiny, ordered his personal guard to target the rebel ships. Lasers flashed across the battlefield as Loyalist forces clashed with defectors. The Empire was tearing itself apart. Amid the chaos, Victor made a bold move. He activated his ship's communication system and broadcast a message, not just to his own fleet, but to all humanity. "People of the galaxy, listen. The Empire has ruled through fear and oppression for too long. Today, we say enough is enough. Join us in standing against tyranny." His words resonated deeply, reaching even the most distant corners of the Empire. Planets that had suffered under Imperial rule began to rise up, their people inspired by the courage of Earth's defenders. The rebellion was spreading faster than anyone could have imagined. On board the Colossus Daniel felt a surge of hope. "We're not alone anymore," he said softly. "This fight isn't just ours. It belongs to everyone." Laura nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "Let's finish this." As the battle raged on, the balance of power shifted. The dreadnoughts held firm, their ancient strength proving unstoppable. For the first time in centuries, the Empire tasted defeat, and it was only the beginning. The tide of the battle had turned, and it was clear that Earth's ancient dreadnoughts were unmatched. The Imperial fleet, once a symbol of unstoppable power, now struggled to maintain order. Admiral Ryan Mitchell watched in disbelief as more and more of his ships either surrendered or joined the rebellion, his face twisted with anger and frustration. "This isn't possible," he muttered under his breath. "How could we lose to relics?" On board the Colossus Captain Daniel Carter felt a mix of relief and unease. The Empire's forces were crumbling, but the cost of victory weighed heavily on him. Every explosion, every destroyed ship, meant lives lost, lives that didn't have to end this way. He glanced at Laura, who stood nearby, her expression grim. She seemed to feel the same weight. "We're winning," Karen Wells said from her station, her voice tinged with cautious optimism. "But at what cost?" Daniel nodded. "We need to end this before it gets worse. Send out a message to the remaining Imperial ships. Tell them to stand down or face total destruction." Laura stepped forward. "And what about Mitchell? He won't give up easily." "He's right," Alan Green chimed in from the engineering bay. "That guy's too stubborn to quit. If we don't deal with him soon, he'll keep fighting until there's nothing left." Before Daniel could respond, Victor Hale's voice crackled over the communication system. "Captain Carter, this is Commander Hale. I'm broadcasting on an open channel to all Imperial forces. If you want proof that the Empire's time is over, look around you. Your leader has failed you. Stand down, or join us in building something better." The effect was immediate. Dozens of ships powered down their weapons, their crews unwilling to fight for a cause they no longer believed in. Even some of Mitchell's most loyal officers began to question their orders. The Empire's grip was slipping faster than anyone expected. Admiral Mitchell, however, refused to surrender. From his command ship, he launched a desperate counterattack, targeting the Colossus directly. "Take them out," he screamed. "Destroy them." The Dreadnought shuddered under the assault, its shields flickering dangerously. Laura rushed to the tactical display, her fingers flying over the controls. "Their weapons are weakening our defenses. We can't take much more of this." Daniel clenched his jaw. "Karen, return fire. Target their engines. Disable them, but don't destroy them." A barrage of energy beams shot out from the Colossus striking Mitchell's flagship with precision. The enemy ship listed to one side, its engine sputtering. Moments later, it came to a halt, powerless and adrift. Victor's voice returned over the comms. "Admiral Mitchell, it's over. Surrender, or my forces will board your ship." For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, finally, Mitchell's voice came through, bitter and defeated. "You think this changes anything? You've started a war you can't win." "No," Victor replied calmly. "We've ended yours." With Mitchell's flagship disabled, the remaining Imperial ships either fled or surrendered. The battle was over. Exhausted cheers erupted aboard the Colossus and the other dreadnoughts. For the first time in years, hope seemed possible. Later, as the crew gathered to assess the aftermath, Laura approached Daniel. "What happens now?" she asked. He looked at her, then at the faces of the crew surrounding them. "Now, we rebuild, not just Earth, but everything." This victory shows that humanity doesn't need tyrants to survive. We can govern ourselves, work together, and create something new. Victor arrived shortly after, having docked his ship with the Colossus. He extended a hand to Daniel. "You've done something remarkable here. But the real work starts now. People across the galaxy are looking to Earth for leadership. Are you ready for that?" Daniel hesitated, then nodded. "We'll figure it out. Together." As the dust settled and the galaxy watched, a new chapter began, not of conquest, but of unity. The Empire's shadow had been lifted, and in its place stood Earth, a beacon of resilience and hope. The galaxy held its breath. News of Earth's victory spread like wildfire, carried by rebel ships and independent broadcasters who had secretly supported the uprising. For years, the Empire's iron grip had silenced dissent, but now voices long suppressed rose in unison. Planets that had suffered under Imperial rule began to declare their independence, inspired by the courage of Earth's defenders. The rebellion wasn't just a battle anymore. It was a movement. On board the Colossus Captain Daniel Carter stood on the bridge, staring at the stars. The weight of leadership pressed down on him, heavier than he'd imagined. "We've won the fight," he said quietly to Laura, who stood beside him. "But winning the peace is going to be harder." Laura nodded, her expression thoughtful. "People are looking to us for answers. They want to believe there's a better way forward. If we don't give them something to hope for, all this will have been for nothing." Victor Hale joined them, his uniform still bearing the marks of battle. "You're right," he said. "The Empire ruled through fear. We need to show the galaxy that strength doesn't have to mean oppression." Daniel turned to face him. "And how do we do that?" The Empire controlled resources, trade routes, everything. Without them, half the galaxy could collapse into chaos. Victor smiled faintly. "That's why we start small. Rebuild trust. Offer aid to planets that need it. Show them that Earth isn't here to conquer, it's here to help." Laura stepped forward, her eyes bright with determination. "What if we create an alliance? A coalition of free worlds, working together instead of being ruled by one power. It wouldn't happen overnight, but it could work. Daniel considered her words. An alliance. That might actually work. But it'll take time. And patience. Meanwhile, aboard Admiral Mitchell's disabled flagship, the defeated leader sat alone in his quarters, seething with rage. His once unshakable confidence had crumbled, replaced by bitterness and resentment. "This isn't over," he muttered to himself. "They think they've won, but they've only delayed the inevitable." His thoughts were interrupted by a knock at the door. Lieutenant Samantha Brooks entered, her usual sharp demeanor softened by uncertainty. "Sir, what are your orders?" Mitchell glared at her. "Orders? There are no orders. The Empire is falling apart because of cowards like you." Samantha flinched but didn't back down. "Sir, maybe it's time to accept reality. The people don't want the Empire anymore. Maybe it's time for change." Mitchell slammed his fist on the table. "Change? You call this betrayal change? Fine. Go join the rebels. See how long their so-called freedom lasts before they destroy themselves." Samantha hesitated, then turned and left without another word. She knew Mitchell was wrong. The galaxy deserved better than the Empire's tyranny, but she also knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Back on the Colossus *, preparations for the new alliance began. Laura proposed reaching out to former Imperial officers like Victor, inviting them to help shape the future. "Some of them may have made mistakes," she said, "but they can still contribute. Forgiveness is part of moving forward." Daniel agreed, though reluctantly. "All right, let's give them a chance. But they'll have to earn our trust." As days passed, messages poured in from across the galaxy. Colonies, outposts, and even entire systems pledged support for Earth's cause. People saw the Dreadnoughts not as weapons of war, but as symbols of resilience and unity. Under Daniel's leadership, the crew worked tirelessly to organize supply runs, medical aid, and diplomatic missions to stabilize struggling regions. One evening, as the crew gathered in the mess hall, Victor raised a glass. "To Earth," he said, "and to the future we're building together." The room erupted in cheers, a rare moment of celebration amidst the hard work ahead. For the first time in decades, the galaxy felt alive with possibility. Earth had risen from the ashes of history, proving that humanity's greatest strength lay not in domination, but in cooperation. But as the stars twinkled outside the ship's windows, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that challenges still loomed on the horizon. The Empire wasn't gone, it was wounded. And wounds like that often festered, waiting for the right moment to strike back. The galaxy was changing. Earth's victory over the Empire had sparked a wave of hope, but it also revealed cracks beneath the surface. On board the Colossus *, Captain Daniel Carter watched as reports came in from across the stars. Some planets thrived under their newfound freedom, while others struggled to recover from years of oppression. The task ahead was immense, and Daniel knew it would take more than courage to keep the fragile peace intact. Laura Bennett worked tirelessly with Victor Hale to establish the groundwork for the new alliance. Together, they drafted plans for a council where representatives from free worlds could gather, share resources, and solve problems without resorting to violence. "This isn't just about Earth," Laura said during one meeting. "It's about giving everyone a voice." Victor nodded in agreement. "For too long, people have been told what to do. Now we give them a choice." But not everyone shared their optimism. Admiral Mitchell, though defeated, refused to fade into obscurity. From his hidden base on a remote moon, he plotted his revenge. His loyalists, those who still believed in the Empire's cause, rallied around him, vowing to restore what they saw as order. "Earth thinks they've won," Mitchell sneered during a private briefing. "But they'll learn that peace is just another word for weakness." Samantha Brooks, who had left Mitchell's side, now served as an advisor to Daniel. She warned him about the lingering threat. "He's dangerous, sir. If we don't stop him, he'll try to drag the galaxy back into war." Daniel frowned. "We can't fight forever. every battle costs lives. Isn't there another way? Samantha hesitated before answering. Maybe. But sometimes you have to confront evil directly, or it grows stronger. Meanwhile, the Dreadnought fleet stood guard near Earth, its ships symbols of both power and hope. Alan Green kept the ancient vessels running smoothly, ensuring they remained ready for whatever came next. "These old beasts saved us once," he said to Laura one day. "They might need to do it again." As weeks turned into months, the alliance began to take shape. Representatives from dozens of worlds gathered aboard the Colossus for the first council meeting. It was chaotic at times, with arguments breaking out over trade routes and resource distribution. But through it all, Daniel reminded everyone why they were there. "We're not here to fight each other," he said firmly. "We're here to build something better, for all of us." The council slowly found its rhythm, creating systems to support struggling planets and prevent future conflicts. Earth became the heart of this new coalition, a beacon of unity and resilience. One evening, as the crew celebrated their progress, Victor approached Daniel. "You've done something incredible," he said. "You've shown the galaxy that humanity can rise above its past." Daniel shook his head. "It wasn't just me. It was all of us. And it's not over yet." From afar, Admiral Mitchell watched the celebrations with cold eyes. He wasn't finished, not by a long shot. But even he couldn't deny that something had shifted in the galaxy. Earth's defiance had ignited a spark that wouldn't easily be extinguished. As the stars shimmered in the endless void, the ancient dreadnoughts drifted silently, guardians of a brighter future. Humanity had faced its darkest hour and emerged stronger. The road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in generations, the galaxy dared to dream of peace.